researching personal data for a very, very long time and creating artwork that's based on initially her personal data, so it's color-coded. The most simple way to say is like, it could show things like if you're an angry person, there's a lot of red.
Right.
If you're a calm person, there's a lot of blue. And Lori's work color codes aspects of who you are, making it accessible through color coding. But there's a lot more to Lori's work. Lori is also a performance artist. In front of people, throws out this idea, which is not quite where we are yet, but people buy it. People are like, yeah, I can buy that. And this is Lori taking that leap off the cliff and saying, it could go here. And we asked her if she would go do this little talk in front of a couple venture capitalists. Could she sell it to them? Could she sell this artistic vision she has about personal data to these venture capitalists? And, well, I will say largely she did. That was the amazing thing. They weren't quite ready to invest, but they were close. And I thought what would be the best thing to do is maybe allow Lori to give a 3-minute pitch, which is essentially like when I call you a performance artist, you're like laughing, which you are. I mean, I saw her do this. The first time I saw her do this, you were like at South by Southwest in this giving this talk, and people in the audience were a bunch of techies. They didn't really know you were an artist. It was like kind of like they knew, but they didn't know. And so when you got them all agitated, she sort of provoked them all with this talk, and it was fascinating to me, anyway, sitting in the audience and watching people respond, and then watching these venture capitalists respond to you. Like, I was completely like, wow.
They were worried about the nuance of how some little tiny piece of it was going to make money, and I'm thinking, so you believed it, you believed it, you believed it, and now you're worried about this?
Yeah. But that is interesting as well. That's where they came. But they were venture capitalists, and we did ask you to do this. But I would say, to the degree that you're being humble about being a performance artist, it's not like you're, Maria Abramovich, but you are essentially going in front of people and being a performer and telling them about this idea you have. And it is not based in science, it's art. It's loosely based in science.
Can we hear it?
And we're going to hear it now.
I know, it's like without... Okay.
Without further ado, Lori.
Yeah, I know. I actually I had those little slides. I have a little picture.
Oh, yeah, oh, good. If you can, I don't know if they can zero in, because she had slides.
Okay, so maybe right there for the camera, like waiting to come in right here.
Other people write things down. I brought myself a little picture. So, we're at this moment in time, in this, right? This is the decade where we're all getting tracked, and we know it. And some people are, in denial, and right. So my premise is it's going to turn upside down. And so the pitch is it's about the people right around you. It's not just the data about you. It's the data about the people around you. And I had this.
And your connections to them, or?
So the premise is that the people that you hang out with will be like diet and exercise, that will manipulate our body chemistry by who we spend time with. And this is software plus machine learning to keep track of you and basically serve up your friends.
So some people are unhealthy for you.
Haven't you ever noticed that some people are a vitamin and some people are a little toxic?
They're toxic, right?
They're toxic. And the premise was that we're kind of randomly choosing friends. And I mean, what we've learned in the last, some years is the whole sociology of friends. We're learning tons, right? If you're friends of friends, you'll lose weight. We stop smoking. If you sit in the diner next to somebody else that's eating a lot of food, you're going to eat a lot of food. So what if we had software to disrupt this random way that we make friends, right? I mean, this whole, right, so whole companies in Silicon Valley have made, billions of dollars on something, that's just fractionally better. So what if we just fractionally better change how we make friends? And And so if you stop and think about it, it's like friend nutrition. So it's this little invisible nudge. Who shows up in your feed? Which posts you see first? You know, it's the mathematics of friends, who you're going to run into. That toxic person's on your calendar, right? It kind of keeps track. Boom, that meeting's gone.
Yeah.
So it's friend nutrition. It's who to see, who to know, who to ignore. And so I imagined, right, the machine learning that keeps track of you is really pretty simple. It's basically just the microphone on your, right? It's just the mic on your phone. It's keeping track of your speech patterns. It's keeping track of how you're interacting with people, your responses. So it's sentiment analysis. It's the metadata of who responds to you. It's the way your voice sounds. But I don't need to really know how you make friends. I just need to watch your response to friends and then serve those people up. And I'm using machine learning, not just watching your reaction, but I'm using the machine learning of that just massive, right? It's the massive deep learning tool of Facebook that understands how people interact and how you respond. And so it's the future, right? It's not about advertising. It's really about friend nutrition. Who to see, who to know, who to ignore.
It's a good pitch.
Well, it's really, it's the whole thing is that it's you start to look at it this moment in time. It's the adjacent possible. It's the combination of the sensor of your phone, the fact that everybody that you're dealing with is this digital interaction. It's the behavioral change of, you know, Tinder for friends, the way that you're making friends online, the people that you see, how much of your interaction with those people is trackable. And then all of a sudden you realize, okay, I want to tune my algorithm for, right, I'm changing my drinking habits. I'm changing, right, I want to come up with better ideas. I'm going to be around people that feed me ideas. I want to quit smoking. I'm going to sort of serve up the people that change my health habits. I want to be a little more productive. I want to, you know, all right, we're starting to talk about, right, your daughter, your kids, you're watching people change. It's the people that they're around. But what if that was just fractionally better using social data and a little bit of machine learning, and I could tune it a little bit.
Yeah. And I think part of what's interesting about this to me, it's not like you don't intuitively know certain things, right?
Right.
It's that this kind of gives you, well, you said it so well once, you said it gives you permission to get rid of toxic people a little sooner. Like
firing bad friends.
Yeah, basically, you kind of know it already, and it's like, you know, you just fire them. It's like enough.
But it's even the mathematics of friends. Like, look at this group tonight. It's like everybody's 1 or 2 degrees from somebody else, and there's somebody here that has an idea or a possibility or something. And you made sure, right, that showed up in your calendar. You made sure that you got yourself here, you got that reminder, and somebody that you'll talk with tonight will end up being somebody that you connect with down the road. And it's the same thing that drives social networks. It's the mathematics of friends, of who you will know. I mean, this is actually real, Russ, this is real math.
It's real math.
It's real math. He's like a Stanford neuroscientist.
We did an evening with Russ here.
Yes,
It's very
exactly.
random. You guys
So
are
if he
friends.
says
Yeah.
it's real
No,
math,
it's just math.
he knows what he's talking about.
Yeah.
But it is, to me, this idea was fascinating. Also, this stuff is useful if you could have it, right? I mean, there's something about it where you've said to me, Lori, it's like if people actually wanted this, if people understood the power, we would be much more demanding about it, about our data.
Well, I think we're worried about the wrong things. I mean, that's just why I think it's so upside down. People think they're going to hide, or somehow they're going to turn location off on their phone, and somehow that's going to fix it. Is that I've been making art out of my data for years now, and I love my data. I want my data. I give this whole pitch about why you want it. And I think the thing that we're not noticing is that the data that's tracked about you is opaque. It's one-sided.
Mm-hmm.
Well,
And also a lot of times you don't know how to use the data. You can collect a ton of data. Actually, Tara Leah and I have talked about this. she's a doctor at UCSF, and so there's a lot of people like are collecting data about themselves and the health of it. It's like, how is it useful when people don't always know?
Well, I'm not even sure it has to be useful. I think that data just simply is you. It's your identity. It's the sense of self. It's a sense of portrait. I think you start to get a sense of watching yourself. You'll start to anticipate. I mean, we are humans, understand pattern.
Mm-hmm.
That pattern recognition, we can see things are going really well, and all of a sudden something's not.
Mm-hmm.
And so I don't think it has to be useful as much
Mhm.
as just a sense of like
I understand
connection.
myself.
I had this other idea that data, if you started to watch yourself enough, it was just a shortcut to mindfulness. It was like a tech boost. It's like meditation done.
Boom, those apps are out of business.
Yeah, exactly. Yes. You're laughing. I'm not kidding.
No, I know.
Yeah, sorry.
So I have a question for you, Laura. So you're a culture reporter. When you put together a series like this, and you sort of intimated this, but I don't know whether you do or not. Are you trying to like really create social change with people?
Yes.
This is not news reporting. This is
No,
not.
this
This
is
is not
addressing
earnings.
why
This is
am I
not
doing
quarterly
this?
earnings. Like, why are you doing this? Are you trying to change something amongst us? Are you trying to make
Yeah,
us
a little bit.
realize something?
I mean, it's a realization that I've come to, and I think it's an informed realization as opposed to just an opinion. Meaning, like, I've been covering this world for a really long time, you know, and I've been to those optimistic, you know, I've sat face to face with Sergey Brin, you know, talking about Google Books and telling me about how wonderful it is, and it is wonderful. But, you know, there's a lot of stuff he wasn't thinking about around copyright and smaller authors, and this is just a small example, you know, and I've seen, I don't know how many times I saw Steve Jobs do his dog and pony show, but there was never anything dark, or even human about it in a way. It was so peripherally human, and so this is, I feel like this is an informed opinion at this point. Where I've decided, instead of asking those people, I'm going to ask somebody different, because I also admire William Gibson a great deal.
Sure.
And he's an insightful guy, and his fiction has proven to be insightful. So he took me in a new direction, and I want to say not so much I'm giving a message as I'm taking people on a journey with me, a journey I took, and I want to take you along why I came to this place a little bit with Gibson and talking to him and talking to other science fiction authors and artists and criminals, and you're coming along with me. I don't have an answer, but as a journalist, I'm an explorer always, and meeting.
So when I was thinking about this topic running yesterday, I was like, okay, so are you suggesting that companies and the likes of Apple and Google and what have you, they're not as creative as criminals and artists because there are a lot of laws which are sort of stymieing them, like they can't go out? Or is it that, so they have barriers that don't let them be creative? Or are artists and criminals creative because they have so many barriers? You know, like I went to sleepaway school and we were extremely creative about breaking rules. And like, I love rules because I'm much more creative when I have a lot of rules and I'm super, so I don't know, like why are corporations not creative? Is it because there's laws? Or are artists and criminals creative because there are walls and boundaries?
I would say part of it is that corporations are functioning within the capitalist system and they need to make money.
Okay.
And so they have a very particular agenda. I mean, not that artists and criminals aren't also trying to make money, but they're doing it within a particular system.
They have different kinds of rules.
They have different kinds of rules.
There are more social hierarchies and rules.
Right.
rather than-
Whereas actually, artists and criminals, I suppose there are social rules and etiquette, but they're different. They're very different rules. And I think they're a little closer to the way people actually behave around technology.
So just as humans, or it's more human maybe.
It's more human, yeah. It's
truthful.
more human. And I think that's why it's so intriguing to me, and I think that's what William Gibson was essentially saying, was that these are the people who, they're not out there to sell the devices, they're out there to use them. Lori is just like checking this stuff out, and she's like, oh my God, look, we can do this. And they may not even be there yet, you know, but you can see, given human nature and who we are, that it could easily go that way, right?
Well, I think it's I describe it as art science, where you run up against, you have a hypothesis, but if you run up against something hard, you can just imagine your way through. So you don't have to, you're not restricted by anything. It's like, oh, I don't know how we're gonna actually collect all this sensor data. Well, I can just like make up something.
Okay, questions? Does anyone have questions, Luke?
I have a question.
Okay, good. Okay, well, Luke's gonna ask first.
Yes.
I don't know who that was.
I think.
Oh, okay.
Oh yeah. Am I pushing myself?
Yeah. Okay, hold on a second.
Hold on.
Okay, Luke,
All
go
right.
first. Vivian's definitely gonna have a question. Vivian always has great questions. Okay.
I think the interesting paradox is that with all the change that's happening with technology, there's such a high degree of uncertainty that's happened. And because there's such a high uncertainty, that obviously comes back to what you're saying, Laurie, that people want to have deeper connection with other people. They need the connection more than ever. You know, there's a quote that I saw the other day, and I thought it's so apt, where it says, call it a clan, call it a network, call it a tribe, call it whatever you want, but know that we all need one. And the thing is that often we are connected in groups in technology, but they're not necessarily our tribe. The people that get us, the people that empower us, the people that see us. And that's where there's an interesting, is there, and I think what you're getting at, is there an opportunity where we can actually become better connected through technology rather than not? Because that's you know, like, we're all connected, but how much is the connection really a proper connection?
Well, I think that's part of the paradox of it. I mean, I think people are connecting. And it's not that, I have to say, I have skepticism of what Lori's talking about too, which is good. I have skepticism about pretty much everything, but I think there's a paradox in that in some ways Facebook is enabling people to connect in a sort of superficial way at this point. It's like, oh, I think, you know, Muslims are all bad, and I'm going to connect with everybody who thinks Muslims are all bad. Now, if you added Lori's layer of sort of deeper, what are those people, when you connect with those people who think all Muslims are bad, maybe you get hyped up and angry, and that actually isn't very good for you. We could go deeper. We could connect more deeply with people, potentially. We're just not yet. So there's kind of a paradox. It's both connecting us and disconnecting us, and it's not one I've solved. And I think Lori's got an interesting path through as to how it actually, in certain ways, could better connect us, more deeply connect us with others.
And what's the path that you're skeptical about?
That, like, it could also more deeply connect sociopaths with one another, or more deeply connect, or more deeply alienate people who nobody likes. You know, there are some people who are just toxic to connect everybody.
None of you are in this room, by the way. Those people are here tonight.
That would be my
This is an
sort of
edited
more
list.
skeptical side of it, and my more optimistic part of it is that this actually is useful, and it may not actually come down quite so dramatically when it's used. We may actually, I mean, I suspect even toxic people can find rooms of other toxic people they connect.
Vivian, what was your question?
Well, I think of now to get into a good school that you need to be able to understand what people want from you, and there's certain protocols. Whereas creative minds maybe are also mischievous and love to circumvent, but do come up with really creative solutions. I think they're not at the top schools. And I wonder if that's part of I don't think that was so much true in the United States 20 years ago. And I wonder if that's keeping creativity out of company and corporations.
Well, that's an interesting question. That's a whole other issue.
And
She's
it's like
a
what you
writer.
were
She's
saying.
an author.
Yeah, mischievous.
Yeah,
creative person.
Well,
But
known children's
what you were saying that a creative mind would be like, why do all this like slow, difficult work when I can just
Make it up.
fudge, like start with my own idea of what the results will probably be. But I
She's
just
done a lot of difficult work. In
yeah,
that process.
being creative, you can love to do a lot of difficult things. But I just think the way education is now cuts out a lot of the most creative minds, and then they may not be hireable at interesting.
Yeah, I mean, we need more criminals at Stanford.
Does
I'm
anyone-
only half joking. I mean, you know, and we definitely need more artists at Stanford. I mean, I just.
People who like to circumvent.
You know, we're
who are
doing
really
this on
good
a
at it.
Friday night so that some Stanford folks could come. George.
Yeah, exactly.
Very specifically, yeah.
I do think that there becomes a problem with people who follow too many rules going through these schools, and we need people who are creative, and I hope the admissions committees keep that in mind, that, you know, we need people who don't fit or a little off. But I would say Silicon Valley is filled with a fair number of pretty off people.
Yeah.
The quote from the evening.
But it's a different kind of off. It's a different kind of off. I mean, they're very intelligent. There's so many intelligent people. But there really is a difference between an artist's mind and a fully a criminal's mind. You know, like I'm going to interview a guy in Colombia who's in prison for hacking elections in 7 Latin American countries. And well, we'll see. There's a question. He once told Business Week that he was called, this is before the election, by the Donald Trump campaign to work for them. He didn't say who called him or anything, so I'm going to prison asking. But I also am really curious what he thinks of this whole thing. Because they were doing this, I think from his perspective, this stuff was going on in Latin America for a while. And that's why I say, like, but the criminal minds elsewhere were already up to it.
Yeah.
We just recently realized.
We're
We just
catching
only,
it slowly.
yeah, we just recently realized it. And that's the thing, is that I'm trying to show how maybe these people sometimes, we should be paying much closer attention.
Did you have a question, Laura? Oh, George. Okay.
Yeah.
I have a question. You know, I've been thinking a lot about democracy over the past year and how it functions in this very technology-centric society. You know, we've always had new waves of technology, and it's always influenced our economy. But at this time, it seems like there's not been an associated increase in new types of jobs, right? And so I'm curious if you think that democracy, as we know it, can survive and thrive when it's so easily manipulated. And I'm curious further if you think that ultimately, as we outsource more of our thinking to machines, that makes us less receptive to democracy in its purest form.
Well, you know, I'm hoping to ask some criminals that question. I mean, another person I interviewed was, people may have heard of Barrett Brown from Anonymous. He's gotten out of prison recently, and I interviewed him about his vision for the future. I think, again, I feel like there's some sense that I don't know the answer to these questions. I mean, I really don't. I think right now it's such an open moment that we need to get outside the box to look for some answers. Right? I mean,
Totally up.
I'm asking the same questions you are everywhere.
TL.
So you've talked about art and criminals and technology in the future, and with sort of a negative connotation. Ouch! I want to err on the side of
Laura's not
positive.
negative. Laura's not negative.
And that's what I'm looking for. Do you see the intersection of these things resulting in something not involving a hacking of our political system, or sharks swimming in Houston water when that shark was completely digitally manipulated during the flood. How do we turn this around and turn something, make something positive out of this?
Okay, Lori, solve the world's
I know, it's like,
And that's the last question, then we're having music.
yeah.
We're moving off on a brighter note. Yeah.
I would change. I would think of it in smaller, simpler, tinier little bits. And it's really just starts to be like, who are the connections that you're making? Who are the people around you? How can you affect them? How do they affect you? And you start to sort of ripple out from there. If your friends are posting shark pictures, you need to follow them.
Not my friends. You need to add the news sources.
Yeah. Well, thank you guys both so much for coming this evening. Of course. And now we're gonna have some music
Can I
soon.
say one thing?
Yeah, you can say one
Say
thing.
one thing?
Yeah.
Tune in.
Oh yeah. So
Look
yeah,
for
the timing.
All Things Considered in November. I believe it's going to be the second week. It's going to run all week long.
I'll be notifying you guys.
You'll hear Lori's story as well as many other kind of wonderful people.
Oh, hand them out. Yeah.
Charles Booker,
like baseball cards.
Yep.
William Gibson, Barrett Brown, Andres Sepulveda, who's in prison in Colombia, a whole array of people, basically giving you a little bit of their vision of where all this technology is taking us. And I think it'll be refreshing in the scheme of things.
Oh, thank you. Oh yeah. Well, hand
So anyway, I just want to say that.
yeah. Perfect.
And
So that's it, you guys. There's ice cream. It's